Just to tell us about this, I think a very salutary effort that has come from the government crossing this $1 billion mark dollar. I think this is quite a good initiative that we can comment on. So give us that particular space that we're talking into, because everything now is gravitating towards the digital platform as it is. And this is one of the key pillar that we know the executive is really keen on making sure the digital highway is flowing seamlessly.
Thank you very much, Dibal, and good evening.
Hearty welcome to you.
Good evening, viewers. Factually, the Kenyan youth, or the present youth as it were, there is a shift in the model and ways of earning incomes, and so particularly in Kenya. It will amaze you to note that we are actually the 5th largest crypto country. Over 6.1 million or almost 6.5 million Kenyans actually involved in that space. Something that the ordinary Kenyan persons or Kenyan people may not be able to understand, the space in which the young people are operating in. And of course, when we came to this realization as the committee in Parliament, we've been able to push a bigger budget towards empowering the Kenyans to be able to have access to access internet, because that is the digital space, because that is a space where many of these young Kenyans are operating in. Equally, when we pushed in some of the legislative proposals up and including the digital assets, so that we can be able to, or virtual assets, so that we can be able to more of give legitimacy to this space, so that Kenyans can work now. Many of these young Kenyans can work in a space that is more regulated, not to be able to bar any, but to be able to give them a better leverage, globally. And I will tell you, everything is going digital, Dibao, and the young people are in that space. If you want to see it even in the simplistic manner,
yes. Look
look at our young children, for instance, when they want something, they easily just go digital and they're able to access it. Some people now do business through our phones, the laptops, that is where the business is. People are moving from having the physical shops and they're having it digitally. You can be able to buy some clothes somewhere and be able to offer them online. And finally, is the digital gigs, serving people from across the globe, doing it online. It is an amazing, and many young Kenyans really are in that space.
Right, and as Thomas Friedman said, the world is flat. Truly, it is flat, right, as we can see it. But the question is also the reality of the digital divide. Still, as a country, we are not yet there. Though we are, highly favored, amongst many African countries, but penetration of the internet is still not a reality in some parts of this country.
But I want to tell you the truth. This is one of the first countries that is really expanding in that space. And I want to thank the President, William Ruto, for figuring this earlier enough in his leadership. And he said that he wants to do 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic, amongst other, models that he wants to create, and, using various things, like we've used Kenya Power to be able to use their lines to be able to transmit some of these, having all the public institutions across the country, digitizing even government in itself. So I can tell you literally, most of the parts of our country, as it were, in terms of the counties or sub-counties, all of them somewhat are interlinked. And in the very near future, we're having all the public institutions across the country, because that is something now that is within our committee that we're working on, to make sure we are able to provide the funding to make sure all the public institutions across the country, first of all, are able to have access to internet. So I can tell you as well that these smart devices in our country, there is almost a huge multiplier access of Kenyans buying smart devices, which allows many of them to be able to access internet. So in my view, I think government has done quite a lot and still has to invest quite a lot in that space as well, to have Kenyans be able to access internet, and for many young Kenyans to be able to embrace.
Yeah, so we have the ICT authority as well, when you're talking about the Wi-Fi spots across the counties. Since we were promised in 2022, 1,500 of them. I think looking at where they are right now, they've not really realized this, and yet we are just now almost, inching up to the 2027 general election.
I think one of the things that happened is the national government, that is the executive, made an engagement with the members of parliament, that is the CDF, to be able to have in every ward across the country, we are able to build a digital center. It is getting a reality by the day. Of course, there are challenges because it's a nascent space that we are getting into, but I can tell you that we have been able to provide, that space, the latitude to be it for all the members of parliament to also support using the CDF funding. And it's actually now almost deliberate that the funding has to be, shepherded for that space. So that is going to happen. Of course, it's taking a bit of time, but as I said, there are challenges that are there, but there are milestones that we've been able to achieve. I can tell you that we are doing literally way above almost 50% in my view. And by the close of this year, by the end of this financial year, because there was some, mitigation laws that have been put in place and even ourselves as members of the committee, we are demanding that we need all the 1450 to be able to have in every ward, literally, there should be a digital center where Kenyans can be able to learn. And of course, we've been able to use the mid-level colleges and TVETs that are across the country. By the way, we need to also appreciate that most of the TVETs in our country are now well networked with computers.
All right, finally, we need to just allay fears regarding legislations that we've seen before. But even as we're heading towards general election, we know the social media will be very active, mobilizing. As we can see, Tuko Kadi initiative is all being orchestrated and planned from the social media. Can we get an assurance, even from your committee and you as a legislator, member of parliament, that come 2027, that space will not in any way be tampered with?
Dibal, I was one of those who, as I said, I'm in that committee. We are the ones who process any law that is proposed, whether by government or by any individuals. And the previous times of the laws that we've been able to process, we realized most of it was propaganda that was deviating towards the negativity. But when you look at anything that we've been able to process, we process things that we know. I am a young person. I cannot come and hang myself on a noose or my fellow young people across the country on a noose on any law that is not friendly. I can give you this 100% assurance, and all Kenyans watching me right now, that we will always have any law that comes before us, that is presented before us, we will process it in a manner that is only just laws, and laws that does not meant to gag, but that's meant to propel us towards having every Kenyan be able to have free flow of information. And that the future, I can tell, is digital. Even the campaigns that are coming in the near future. And I like so many innovations that have been even presented before our committee by many young Kenyans trying to innovate the various ways of disseminating information so that Kenyans can be able to make very informed decisions in the near future.
Right, thank you. We shall be engaging you more.